The Bernoulli principle relies on the Bernoulli equation. The Bernoulli equation can be considered to be the statement of the conservation of energy principle appropriate for flowing fluids. As seen in the airplane example earlier, the qualitative behavior behind the Bernoulli principle is usually labeled with the term the Bernoulli effect, which is a lowering of fluid pressure or air in regions where the flow velocity is increased. So the top side of the wing versus the bottom side of the wing will create a lift, as we'll talk about later. But Bernoulli's equation is essentially the energy per unit volume before is equal to the energy per unit volume after. This is depicted with the formula P1, which this here will represent your pressure energy, plus 1/2 rho and velocity 1 squared, which this section here is equal to, or it represents the kinetic energy per unit volume. And so you take that, so you have your pressure energy plus your kinetic energy per unit volume plus rho g for gravity and your height, which represents the potential energy per unit volume. So you have your pressure energy plus your kinetic energy per unit volume plus the potential energy per unit volume is equal to it'll be the same thing, but instead of P1s it'll be P2, instead of V1 will be V2, and H1 will be H2. And that satisfies the idea that the energy per unit volume before is equal to the energy per unit volume after. A good way to depict this would be in your classic Bernoulli example of a pipe with the constricted area. You make the assumption that this is a laminar flow. The assumption is going to be made too that A2, which is this area, will be less than A1, which would be this area. So A1 would be your radius here, A2 is going to be that area there, and V2 is going to be greater than V1. V2 is going to be in the constricted area here next to V1, or next to A2. V1 is going to be out here. And the representation of the fluid going through would be like so. So as you can see, it gets constricted in that area, so the velocity is going to increase.